Hello, everybody, and welcome in to another episode of the Couch GMs podcast. It is Monday, December 2nd, 2024. I'm your host, George Kurt, joined by the one and only Cody Roadcap. I hope you all out there had a happy Thanksgiving, enjoyed some family and football, and you as well, Cody.
I appreciate that. I had a great Thanksgiving. Had fun at the Turkey Bowl with George and Tyler, who's not with us today, and a bunch of friends playing the sport, then
Clock down,
watching it
Cody.
on
100%.
Sunday. Yeah, he hit me with the ball was definitely overthrown by 10 yards, and then still hit me with the, you know, incomplete defensive back like a true DB. So I did appreciate that.
It doesn't matter how good your coverage was on the play. If it's not a catch, you have to hit him with the seatbelt, the finger wag, whatever it is.
For sure. But yeah, I mean, we had a great game. We had a great slate of games dating back to Thursday, Friday, Sunday. I mean, heck, we had good games on Saturday and Friday if we want to talk college football too. But so it's just a great week of football, and now we're into December, the final month of the season.
I feel like we have to
Regular
add a
season.
section to the rundown as the de facto college football podcast because it was a wild weekend there, but we can just throw it randomly in the middle for everyone listening in. Looking forward to a little bit of mentions of college football, but we're here for the NFL, and make sure you follow us at the Couch GMs, Facebook, X, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm trying not to say Twitter, and it just keeps coming out of my mouth, so we'll get there eventually. You can always DM us there with your fantasy questions each week, or drop it in the comments as we are live now and Mondays and Thursdays at 6:30 East. So make sure you get involved in the discussion. We'll answer questions as we go. A lot to talk about, as you said, Cody. Let's sit back, relax, and chat.
That is my cue to hit a button.
And this week, and as we keep going towards the NFL playoffs, we'll mention some playoff standings as we go through some games and anything that may be relevant. But what games do you want to talk about from this week? Anything's on the table that's happened so far, Cody?
Yeah, let's talk some games, but I kind of want to throw a curveball that I meant to talk to you about, but I want to know personally what you need to happen to win this week because we're only 1 week left. And then do you want to kind of do an impromptu World Cup update? Or you want to save
Definitely.
that for Thursday and we can just say who's in, who's out, and who needs to win? Little podcasting pregame during the show.
Sounds good. Why don't we save that World Cup update for Thursday? Because then we'll have a better idea of where the standings lie with 1 week left instead of having to go through and pick it apart during the show. As much as people would love to do that, we'll pick it apart after, and then we'll bring it to you on Thursday. But some playoff races heating up there. For myself, in our league of record, I need a bad game out of who was it here? Give
Nick
me a
Chubb.
second.
I
It was
got
Nick
you.
Chubb. See, even Cody knows better than I do. It was Nick Chubb. 11 or less out of him. And if I win pretty solidly in a playoff spot, it's a win and in for me next week. If I lose, I would need win and help. So a little bit to worry about.
Yeah, so let's just start with the Bills 49ers. We'll start with Sunday Night Football, work our way backwards
Okay.
a little bit because there's a lot to talk to, and I know we want to talk some Thanksgiving games, but you mentioned your fantasy league. I'm talking about our league of record. My league of record, I needed to win to keep my hopes for a bye alive. I go into Sunday Night Football. I'm down 9 points. I have CMC. He gets 8 points when he gets shoestring tackle, which would have been a breakaway home run touchdown. Not only does he not get the 9 points, he hurts his knee, and he's now out for IR, which we're going to talk about if there's a guy to potentially replace him because Jordan Mason is also out on IR.
Those are the worst. When you were like, should be cruising to the win, still early in the game, got most of the points I needed, and then there's an injury. I hate to see injuries on top of it in fantasy football. It just makes it worse. I feel for you.
No, for sure. And like again, the 49ers have been banged up all year. Their stars have been hurt. CMC has had a rough season as well. So you hate to see him, going to miss more time as he goes on to IR. And, that was one heck of a fun game to watch though in the snow. All the slipping and sliding, doesn't make for the best game in terms of statistical, but one statistical feat that we did see was Josh Allen. He ran one in.
Yep.
He threw a touchdown, and even on a technicality caught a touchdown because he threw it to Amari Cooper, who then lateraled it back to him for the tutty. That's a 10-point play swing, and I know that's one of the reasons why your game is so close this week, George.
Yes, it is. I mean, even take away the receiving touchdown, Nick Chubb needing 17 would be a bigger deal. But Josh Allen coming through in the clutch, and I know there's at least a few people I've talked to that benched Josh Allen going into the snow game, not thinking there was going to be a whole lot through the air. If you would have known that he was going to catch a touchdown, run in a touchdown, I mean, I guess the running for a touchdown you probably could have expected, but that would not have happened. He had a great week, and it's always fun to see snow games, and I'm actually very impressed with the weather featuring a couple of snow games already, and it's only December 2nd.
For sure. And I definitely debated it because in one of my lower leagues, I have Josh Allen, but he was on bye last week. So I benched him, obviously, because he was on bye. Had to start Cooper Rush because there was no quarterbacks. It's a super flex spot. So every team has two quarterbacks. So I had to start Cooper Rush. Worked out great. Forgot to make the change Thanksgiving morning to take Cooper Rush out. So then I was debating between do I play Josh Allen or Kyler Murray. I ended up switching to Josh Allen because I was like, I know it's going to snow, but that just sounds like a rushing touchdown for me. So I'm going to roll with the guy that's playing like an MVP level. And I know we're 5 weeks out, but I think it's a two-man race for MVP between him and Mr. Saquon Barkley. What are your thoughts?
I'm impressed to hear a non-quarterback legitimately in the discussion, whether it be Saquon Barkley, who I'm obviously going to bat for or not, just because we've seen 2,000-yard running back seasons since the last non-quarterback and everything else, and it seems like no one's even in discussion. So I'm just happy to see that, and obviously I'm rooting for Saquon to win it for multiple reasons. But Josh Allen, as like even you said when we were doing our preseason awards predictions, if he takes this team and makes the playoffs even, he deserves it. And it's been beyond that. They're still in contention for the number 1 seed. I said we'd mention playoff standings. They clinched the division week 13. I mean, obviously, you need a little bit of help in that, and their division's been struggling since the Dolphins lost Tua for a while and whatever, but that is a feat.
Yeah, but you know what's even more wild about that? They haven't played the Patriots yet. So it's not even like they beat up on their own division. They still have to play, I believe, the Jets again. Like, they still have 3 more division games to go, and they've already gotten a good pace on the team. And can they overcome the Chiefs, the number 1 seed? I know I don't want to look because we got still week 14. We got to recap week 13. We got week 14 to get to, but coming up in week 15, we got a Bills-Lions game that could be Super Bowl preview.
There's a good chance. I mean, 2 of the best teams right now. And no matter which way you look at it, the team that loses that game is going to be in trouble for pushing for a number 1 seed. The Lions have 2 teams on their tail, only 1 game back. The Bills still 1 game behind the Chiefs. So like that's going to be a big deal for whoever loses that game on if they can still hold a bye or achieve a bye, I should say.
Yeah, and that's in Detroit, so we'll talk about that game in there. But you mentioned the Bills chasing the Chiefs. We're going to jump all around here. Let's go to Friday. Raiders at Chiefs. So I don't like the 3:00 Black Friday game. Like, I wish it was like later, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I was out shopping, but
Could
just
you do like 6 o'clock?
yeah, like even like a 4:30. Like, just make it like a America's Game of the Week, but there's no pregame to that. Obviously, it's on Amazon. But let's just push it back just an hour or two. Kind of, they stole the spotlight. There's some other stuff happened in the evening, but would like to see that. But the Chiefs escaped again with the center hearing a Nakano clap, thinking that was the snap. He was the only one to snap the ball on their drive. They had him basically in field goal range, and they got to that awkward situation where they had to like run one more play to waste the time to kick the field goal. They were trying to get everything set. They snapped the ball, it fumbles it, and the Chiefs recovered. No chance to kick a field goal, and the Chiefs win again. George, I feel like you're becoming a Chiefs hater day by day, week by week. So just vent for me a little bit here.
This has been going on for 2 years now, Cody. Where have you been?
No,
I think this year it's just worse.
No, that's what I meant. I didn't mean like you have been super like anti Chiefs and anything they do annoys you. They can, go for a 2-point conversion on the first attempt, and you'll be like, I hate the Chiefs. They always get it. Like they've just rubbed you the wrong way. I don't know if it's because they still have a Kelsey playing and your team doesn't. Like I don't know what if it's just that they keep winning, if it's Taylor Swift's at all their games. Like I don't know what it is, but this year in particular, you are extra salty against the Chiefs. But honestly, when they keep winning like this, I think other people are starting to come more to your realization.
I don't know if this showed through as much because we were still young in our podcast careers back in 2020. And I think the personality was still yet to come through at that point. But my feelings for the 2024 Chiefs are very similar to the 2020 Steelers. Like, I don't feel like they have staying power. And I hate seeing teams, especially when you're looking at the team that is getting all the hype, number one from Taylor Swift, number one back-to-back champs, and then it's seemingly getting away with things. It's not calls, it's not bad calls most of the time. Like I'm not on the side of like the refs are handing them games, but it's like you're getting lucky where you're blocking a kick, which I mean, yeah, sure, it takes skill, but it's still luck when it comes to getting a block kick at the right time. You're getting lucky with the Raiders fumbling a snap when they were lining up for a game-winning field goal or game-tying field goal. Like, so I feel like there's not staying power here. And if I'm going to see a team getting all this hype as being like a Super Bowl contender, best team in the league, I want it to be a team where I can look at it and be like, they're playing solid football every single week. They're going out there, they're executing. They're a team that I don't know if they can be beat. And I've seen the Chiefs now nearly drop a game to two horrible teams. I get it, the Panthers are improving and the Raiders are playing with heart, but they're not good teams. And this best team in the league is out there almost dropping games and getting lucky to beat them. So that's why I'm like, I want to see the top teams in the league that are getting the hype performing. And I don't see the Chiefs performing. I see them getting lucky. And I see a lot of roads where they just crumble.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Marcus is in the chat, friend of the show, saying he thinks the Chiefs are tired and they're not even good. It just always goes their way, and then emphasizes that. And then he also says he's with you, George. So at least you have one person in your
Thank you,
corner
Marcus.
because we know you need it. But with that said, and I think we'll see when it comes playoff time, right? That's been my whole thing. Do they turn it on or do they get exposed? And that's what I think is going to be the most exciting thing about the playoffs, because either way you win, right? You get to
Yeah.
watch the Chiefs lose and go out early and everybody gets to celebrate that, or you get to watch the Chiefs go on another Super Bowl run, which people irritate, but then in 10 years you'll be like, you know what? I got to watch a team go on a three-peat. And we didn't, and remember that that's a cool experience as well, too. So
And
I
hopefully
tend
we're
to,
just seeing good football. Like even when it
yeah.
came down to the Super Bowl last year and I was like, I'm tired of seeing the Chiefs here and I don't like the 49ers. It was like, show me a good game. And we got a good game. So like, if you're going to show me the Chiefs do it again, show me good football. Don't show
So
me a team
so
scraping
don't.
along and getting
So
lucky.
Steelers Chiefs is not the game that you want to see in the AFC Championship game.
Not necessarily, but the Steelers are at least giving me a little bit of hope that they're a decent team at this point. Like they're playing more solid
I
football on
mean,
offense now with Russ.
they did put up 44, 41, 44 points
They also
on.
played the Bengals, who
I
I
was going to
don't
say,
even know if they have a defense. Their defense is 11 turnstiles.
so this had me thinking today. Last year and the year before that, their defensive coordinator, Lou Amaruno, was getting head coaching consideration, right?
Yeah.
Do you think he gets any interviews this year? Or do you think this defense has been that bad, like he might get fired and have to go to another team and start the whole process of becoming a head coach over again?
I wouldn't be shocked if he still got interviews. I don't think it's likely he's going to get a job. Because I've seen situations before where coordinators have bad years and then get head coaching jobs. Cody, you would know very well about that one. Your head coach was a 28th ranked offense the year
Yeah,
before he became your head coach.
I mean, you do have to look at that. I always say with Matt LaFleur, he played with a banged up. He played with Chad Henne, I believe it was, and Marcus Mariota that played games without feeling in his elbow. Like and they just signed Dion Lewis, so they couldn't force feed Derrick Henry because he was still young Derrick Henry and not the guy that we know and love. this day. But yeah, let's talk about that Steelers-Bengals game. That was a back and forth game. The Bengals actually made it pretty close. They got to, at least attempt the onside kick. And Joe Burrow continues to put up stats, but they aren't able to get wins. And I did love that Marcus loves your name for Cincinnati Turnstiles, as he drops a comment on there saying he's going to rename the whole league the Cincinnati Turnstiles, which is a fun thing. But at least they'll have those outside their indoor practice facility starting next year. So that's always a good thing. And
Cody's just throwing jabs while I'm throwing punches here.
their new head coach, Ben Johnson. So you heard it here first.
Cool. I like it. No, but I mean, the Steelers defense is the worst game the Steelers defense has played all year. But again, the Bengals have a great offense. And the Steelers, as they keep going, have been earning a little bit more respect. Obviously, they lost a game to the Browns, but division game in the snow, a little bit you can kind of give them some slack for, if I would say.
No, I hear that. But I just made a joke about Zach Taylor not being the head coach, the Bengals getting a new head coach. There's one team this week we know they're getting a new head coach after a Thanksgiving debacle.
Debacle's a good way to put it.
Chicago Bears found a way to not at least attempt a field goal to send the game to overtime after coming back on the Detroit Lions. Caleb Williams, everyone's seen that. We don't have to beat him. I just don't understand how you get tackled at 35 seconds and you don't get another playoff with a timeout. I understand trying to run a play. It's third down, right? So you're in that awkward situation where if you don't get the first down, you can't spike it. So you want to save the timeout to bring the field goal kickers on. So you want to run the play in that moment. My thing is, once Caleb gets the line and starts going all crazy, audible in the play, which is why Eberflus isn't there, how did he not call a timeout and is like, look, we're going to run this play, and I need the special teams unit on the sideline. We're going to get up, they're going to place the ball, and we're going to kick this, because even if he calls it with 20 seconds, 25 seconds, I think there's plenty of time to run a play and get the field goal unit on there. Or at least when it's 6 seconds, call the timeout then and just bring the field goaler in now instead of letting him snap that ball and throw it up for Jesus 5 yards short of the end zone.
Exactly. I would rather take your Hail Mary long field goal attempt at that point rather than whatever the heck they did, kind of a Hail Mary, not really let the clock run out. The fact that there was a timeout in their pocket, there's so many things they could have done. At this point, I think it would have made more sense for them to call the timeout right when they got sacked. But especially because a sack is one of those plays that kind of really throws your entire offense off. It just throws off your rhythm. You have wide receivers way down the field that have to run all the way back. You do have to get a play called in this situation. But like you said, even if you had it run down to 25, 20 seconds, they normally say you can run your field goal unit onto the field with about 15 seconds. You never really want to rush your kicker. So maybe there's a worse shot for you to go out there and kick that field goal, with running them out there in 15 seconds, but it's possible. And that still is a better outcome than letting the clock run out with a timeout in your pocket. Yeah, I just don't understand how they didn't call a timeout before the play was run right there, realizing that there was not going to be any time, or how Caleb doesn't at least throw the ball out of bounds or spike it or something.
Like I said, spiking it does nothing because it's third down. It puts it fourth down. You have to kick anyways.
But that's no different than saying call the timeout and just, okay, we're just going to try the field goal.
Right. But here's the thing. His headset didn't get turned off. The coach could have been in his ear. But Caleb even said they had a play called for third down, in the hurry up. He didn't like it, so he audibled, and that took more time. So again, that's on the coaching thing. And, I think it's just proof that the Chicago Bears don't know what they're doing, especially after then was it Sunday? Was it Sunday or was it? Yeah, Sunday. They let Eberflus go to the press conference, talk about it, say he was on to San Francisco, and then 2.5 hours later, he gets fired. Then for the owner and the GM to come out to their press conference today to announce that the firing and the positional changes and Thomas Brown becoming the interim head coach 2 weeks after being promoted to offensive coordinator. And they were like, yeah, we didn't have our final decision. And so hindsight, we probably should have did better and not had him do the press conference, but we just didn't have our decision. What changes in 2 hours?
Seriously. If you're I get, like, their point was saying that, oh, if we like postpone the press conference, people are going to think something's up. Well, people thought something was up before the press conference anyway. And if you're going to be like, hey, we're going to push our press conference to like 2 o'clock, I don't think that speculation is going to change any of the questions that would have came through, whether if you didn't fire him. It just looks worse on you as an organization. And we already call them one of the dumpster fire organizations in the NFL to go out there and basically feed your head coach to the wolves and then kick him out to the curb an hour later. It's just horrible when it comes to trying to bring in a head coach to coach that team in the future. And I get there's a lot of talent there. And obviously a head coaching job in the NFL is like a coveted position. But it really is going to make anyone going in there think like, I don't have ownership that's number one going to put a team together that's going to, bring me something, and two, show any respect for me in the public eye.
Yeah, I completely agree. And then last thing before we move on and talk too much Bears, their owner did say that this will be the most coveted job in the NFL.
Oh, so they're delusional too.
Okay, my next question was, do you agree? So I'll just take that as a no, and we can move on to the next game.
I like it.
Let's talk Cardinals Vikings. Another debacle. Cardinals were up by two possessions. Let the Vikings come back and squeak out a victory. Not as drastic as what we saw unfold in Detroit by the Chicago Bears, but another clock management situation. I know Greg Olson pointed out on the broadcast about this. I agreed with him. So I don't think, and I know you were getting ready to go to the Ravens game or walking into the stadium, so you probably didn't get to catch this part of it. But it's 3rd and goal from like the 15-yard line, 13, 15-yard line, something along there. They get a play to Trey McBride. He gets it to the 3. So it goes 4th and goal from the 3. They are up 3 points. They decide to kick the field goal to go up 6. Would you have gone for it? Greg Olson said he would go for it because going up 6 doesn't change anything. They have their timeouts. They have the chance to go down the field. If you don't get it, they got to go 97 yards to score a touchdown, or maybe they just play for the field goal and send it to overtime. They ended up going for the kick, put them up 6, and let the Vikings walk down easily and score on them. They did get the ball back with like 30 seconds, but it wasn't enough for them to do anything.
Yeah, I think I would have went for it also, because being in control of the game most of the game, if you go in there and score a touchdown, you lock it up, it's over. If you don't, the odds of them driving down the field 97 yards to score a touchdown are very slim, even if the momentum's starting to go the other way. If they do, props to them, you lose. If they go down and kick a field goal, like you said, it goes to overtime. You're still giving yourself another shot more than likely, unless you lose the toss. And that's a whole overtime rule thing. We can discuss that at another time because I hate the overtime rules. But I think you're giving yourself a better shot by going for it. And I don't know how the analytics would fall for it. I feel like your win percentage has to be similar, being up 6, kicking back to them, or giving them the ball with a few minutes left all the way back at their own 3.
Yeah. It just, like, the minute I saw it, I was like, I would go for this.
Yeah.
I understand kicking it when it's, 1st and goal from outside the 10, but when you pick up 12 yards, like, I'd love to see, I think you should just go for it at that point. When you have Kyler Murray run some, a little bit about a quarterback option, or,
RPO kind of thing.
Throw a fade route to Marvin Harrison Jr., get,
Nice to see him get a touchdown.
So there was a lot of things. Cardinals continue to make the NFC West, I almost said South, but both of those divisions are all kinds of confusing for the playoffs. But the Seahawks, they beat the Jets in a game that was drunk to start the game, but they came back and beat them to continue their lead. The Cardinals are still in second, followed by the Rams, and then the 49ers, but none of them are completely out of the playoffs, as they can all still win that division, which is kind of wild. And then on the NFC South side, since we're talking playoffs now, I'm just jumping all over the place, that Falcons game, the 4 turnovers by Kirk Cousins, as they dropped a game. The Panthers take the Buccaneers to overtime, but the Buccaneers prevail. The Falcons and the Buccaneers are now both 6-6, seemingly in a two-man race. The Saints are still technically alive, but I think that they have burned out that new interim head coach buzz, and we are in a two-man race between the Bucs and the Falcons. And I know preseason I was all in on the Falcons winning this division, but I'm riding with Baker Mayfield now. I think the Bucs and Baker Mayfield are going to pull this one out. Do you disagree?
I don't. I think the Buccaneers have kind of weathered the storm at this point. Like when they first lost Godwin and they were missing Evans for 3 weeks, like it looked like it was very bleak, but the Falcons just kept him in. And now that you've gotten to the point where they start to look like they're coming back together, they broke that losing streak. They're back to 500. They're getting healthier. I'm seeing a lot of, I don't know if it's age catching up to Kirk, the injuries. He's still not quite 100% there after the Achilles. That team just isn't quite where we thought it was. They don't look like a surefire lock playoff team to me. And the Buccaneers look more so, and they have that pedigree with a lot of guys holdovers from the Super Bowl. They were a playoff team last year. They look like they're more in control.
You think there's any chance they give in to the fan buzz and start Michael Penix Jr.?
I think if that's going to happen, it's going to be like a week 17, they're eliminated from the playoffs kind of deal.
So we want to see what we have, not try to save our season.
Yeah, I think it's once the season's over, you would see that. I don't see it happening sooner.
All righty, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, that's pretty much most of the games on our list. 2 more quick ones, or I guess 3 more quick ones to talk about. Jags Texans. That was a gnarly hit that Trevor Lawrence took. But really, what is your level of concern with the Texans? They still seem to be, holding their own in their division, although the Colts are winning, which we're going to talk about that game here in a second. But they lost the Titans 2 weeks ago. They let Mac Jones lead the Jaguars back to a offside chance to send that game to overtime. They lost the Jets a couple weeks back. This team's just not playing great. Nico Collins hasn't been back to that early season form quite yet. Any concern level of the Texans, or like you think maybe we were just drinking too much Texans Kool-Aid to start the season and they just weren't the team that we were? They weren't that, next man up kind of team. They're just a middle of the pack team that'll make the playoffs, but not a team that can go all the way.
I just think they're not quite living up to potential at the moment. And part of it's probably just because they're such a young team. I mean, second-year quarterback. They can still go out there and beat whoever, I feel like, on a given week, because you still have some crazy good players, like a Nico Collins can take over a game. You have Joe Mixon, who it seems like he's inconsistent at this point, but when Joe Mixon takes over, you can't touch the Texans. But they're gonna control their division just because it's not great. I just don't think they're quite at the level that some of these top teams are. Right now, I would consider them the Chiefs with less luck.
The Chiefs with less luck. Man, see, any chance you can get, you would take a jab at the Chiefs. Like, wow.
You're welcome.
You just love taking jabs at the Chiefs. I would not make that comparison because I've said all along, I think the Chiefs, they're just not playing the way that we're accustomed to. Mm-hmm. Not to go down this whole road again. We're used to them playing pretty football. They're playing sloppy, ugly, gritty football right now. And they don't have an elite run game, but they play through their run game. They're still able to get, 4 or 5 yards of carry. They're just not breaking off the big plays. They got Pacheco back. And I actually saw that Hollywood Brown might be making a return soon. I thought that dude was done. So
me too.
That was a surprise tweet to read across from Rappaport at one point over the weekend. And I was like, I thought he was done, but maybe he'll be back just in time to add another pass catcher on that offense to make some noise. But I talked about the Colts in the Texans division. They played the Patriots. They eliminated the Patriots from playoff contention officially, but they went for 2 to end the game. Essentially, there was like 30 seconds left, albeit they did allow the Patriots to get into a field goal range of 68 yards, and they missed it by like 2 yards in the cold of New England. So it was very close. But
Impressive being in that weather, barely missing a
a
record field goal.
But the Colts win. They go for 2 at the end of the. Do you think there's a chance the Colts could overtake the Texans, or do you think that they're even a step below where the Texans are at?
Barely beating the Patriots is hard for me to be like, yeah, they're taking a step. They're another decent team. I think there's still a lot of questions with Anthony Richardson. I mean, they got better when they went back to him because Flacco was not playing up to where Flacco had been playing once they named him the starter. So I'm not saying that they're bad, but I don't think Richardson's at the point where he's going to be able to lead this team consistently to get to a playoff berth, especially considering that they're still, I think, 2 games behind the Texans.
So yeah, I can look at the standings here, but just real quick, I'm gonna give you the Texans' remaining schedule.
Mm-hmm.
They host the Dolphins, then they go to the Chiefs, then they host the Ravens, and they finish off with the Titans.
That is actually a really tough stretch.
The Colts, on the other hand, they have the Broncos, the Titans, the Giants, and the Jags. So again, outside of the Giants game, none of those games are going to be easy because the
Yeah.
Colts can't beat the Jags. Titans are going to play them tough. The Broncos are a good team right now. But like, there's still a path for the Colts to sneak away at that division. I think that's something worth monitoring over the last 4 games of the season, because it is a 2-game lead, but we'll have to wait and see. And ironically, they don't play each other anymore in those final 4 games. They play the other divisional opponents, but not each other. So
Did
we'll
they
have to wait.
split?
I would have to. You're making me do too much
Yeah, I'm making you
live.
too much work. So they also haven't had their bye, so it's a little bit
The Texans
interesting to look
won.
at.
Hang on. The Texans won both.
That makes me think it's definitely not going to happen. If the Colts start off with this with a victory tonight, we'll talk about that game in a bit. I think that I'm sorry, my bad. If the Texans lose during the Colts bye week to kind of bring them closer, I think that helps. But I don't see it happening, especially with the Texans having the tiebreaker.
Okay, we'll have to see how, because it is essentially 3 games at that point with 4 games left.
Yes.
So that's worth noting. But I think that was all. Oh, Rams Saints. Outside of, I mean, the Rams won, but the big news out of that one was Taysom Hill out for the season, ACL. Be 35 next year, coming off of an ACL. Which wild that he is 35 in year 9,
Right.
or year 8. 35 in year 9. He's 34 in year 8. Crazy.
He hadn't played a lot of those early seasons of his career, if I'm not mistaken. He was a backup quarterback, didn't really get on the field, and then he went to the Saints and became that utility player. So that's probably why it feels weird.
I mean, he's pretty much always been a utility player with this. He's outside of his rookie preseason, he's been with the Saints the whole time.
Man, it's been a while. It doesn't feel like that long. But I'm going to miss telling you to play him every single week in fantasy. So
Did you play him this week in the league of record? I know you picked him up last week.
I did. And if I would have played Sam Laporta's 2 touchdowns instead, I would be in a better situation. But here we are, Nick Chubb. So what we got?
All right, but before we get to the Monday night preview game, let's talk about waivers. Week 14, win to get in for people in the fantasy football playoffs. If your league is set up the right way, which it should be, that week 15 starts the fantasy football playoffs. But we have 6 teams on bye this week: the Ravens, the Broncos, the Texans, the Colts, Patriots, and Commanders. And when I see that list, I see a lot of quarterbacks that people are starting on a week-to-week basis that they're going to need to replace this week. So, George, what are some streaming options for this week?
I tried to grab a couple of guys that are under 50% owned, so you can probably find them. I'm sure you're going to need more, and we can find some more for you on Thursday. I've got Caleb Williams versus San Francisco. Traditionally, San Francisco is not the team that you want to stream against, but this year they haven't been fantastic on defense, and Caleb Williams is again on a stretch where he scored solid over the last 3 weeks. And then my other one, Russell Wilson versus Cleveland. This might seem like a scary proposition because Russ only scored 13 points against them 2 weeks ago. But familiarity is one thing. I think they have a chance to scheme now that you've just seen them. And this game's not going to be in the snow in the second half. I think that also hurt Russ's output a little bit.
And I think one thing worth noting on QB streams, though, I'll throw one more name out there.
Okay.
Cooper Rush, Monday night against the Bengals. That defense, we talked about it being garbage. It's going to be scary if you need to go, if you're going into Monday Night Football needing a big game from Cooper Rush to get you in the fantasy playoffs. But that Bengals team would be the defense I'd want to go against.
Yes, it would. When there's 6 buys and you're trying to get into a fantasy playoff spot, anything's on the table. And he's actually been decent over the last 2 weeks, and like the Cincinnati turnstiles will give up a bunch of points.
Yeah. So I'm as I'm like looking at the schedule for next week, there's a lot of good games I'm going to be really excited to talk about on the Thursday show. But let's talk some running backs.
Okay.
Because the big question is Isaac Guerendo being the last man standing in the 49ers running back room. My question is this a Mike Boone situation?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. I mean, we haven't seen a whole lot of Guerendo over this season, but when we have seen him, he's looked solid. And there's very few running backs that have started for San Francisco, no matter how good or bad they've been doing, and have done poorly. I'm not saying he's going to go out there and score 27 like we saw in Jordan Mason week 1. He's not going to go on a run where he scores touchdowns in 12 straight games like we saw Christian McCaffrey do. But if you're desperate, have been relying on CMC, have been relying on Jordan Mason, have a lot of bye weeks, I think he can score you 10 to 12 and you can at least survive.
Yeah, so here's my thoughts. I think it's going to be fool's gold in week 14. I think the Chicago Bears defense is pretty good against the run. I think unless they get Trent Williams and Aaron Banks back on the left-hand side, it's going to be tough for them. And I think we even saw it last night on Sunday Night Football. The 49ers were in that game. They weren't in that game. They were running hard. McCaffrey gets hurt, and the whole air went out of that team. I think they realized that this is not their year, and Brock Purdy is banged up. And I know, we talk all the time, Kyle Shanahan can make any running back good. You want a part of his running back. So I'm definitely saying if you got waiver, spend your fab, right? Like if you have the fab left, go out and spend it for Guerendo. Like I'm actually annoyed in our league of record how the new rolling waiver system, because people didn't want to do fab in that league, switched up. And despite not making a waiver wire over the last 3.5 weeks, I'm still in the bottom half of the waivers, and people higher than me have higher waivers. Makes no sense. I'm the Christian McCaffrey owner. I'm going to be more salty about that. That's why you should play in fab, because it's the fairest way to do the waiver system. But go out and spend it. I'm just saying I'm not going to go out there and have high expectations this week. And I think he can also be a trap against the Chicago Bears.
And it's very possible. I'm not saying the matchup's prime or anything, but as somebody who needs a running back fill next week, you're not going to find many better options on the waiver wire.
That is true, unless like Irving's out there, which he probably shouldn't be, but that dude has played lights out the last 2.5 weeks. So I would look at him. But then we saw the injury, so start filling out your handcuffs now. Might be hard with the 6 bye weeks, but if you're able to do that, look at your guys to fill in some of those other spots. Some of them are tougher to figure out. Like we talked about this last week. Like, do you want Justice Hill? I mean, Gus Edwards didn't do a great job as the handcuff for J.K. Dobbins. He kind of split with their rookie. Do you want Cam Akers? Do you want, Emmanuel Wilson or Chris Brooks behind Josh Jacobs? Do you want Jalen Wright behind Devon Achane? Like, which ones do you want? Jerome Ford behind Nick Chubb? Like, which? There's not a lot of great options, but they'll get opportunities. So you want to pick up the guy that you're going to think that you might need to replace and grab his handcuff this week.
It's going to be tough because you're going to have to play running backs if some go down. So sometimes you're going to have to play guys like, I really don't want to, but here we are. Bless you, Cody. We are. We have to. But there's some guys out there that have a lot of potential. Example, I think he's pretty widely available. Ray Davis in Buffalo. I mean, he's probably going to have a waiver rush a little bit just because he played in the snow and got some points. But Cam Akers in Minnesota, we've seen him mix in and be pretty successful. Baron Jones gets hurt, I think he could be a decent play. Trying to think. If Bigsby got dropped anywhere, if ETN goes down and Bigsby gets enough carries, I think there's a solid chance he could be decent. So there's still guys out there that like you're not gonna love playing them, but they in a key situation could help you.
Yeah. And I mean, that's basically what you're doing at this point. You're picking up the guys that you think could, help you in a start that you don't have to go fight the waiver wire system a little bit later. And it's not just a running back. If you think there's, some wide receiver options out there, they're a little bit harder to get quote unquote handcuffs on because a lot of good teams, you have their top two. And if one goes down, the second one's already there. But let's talk about some wide receivers that might be available. You have Adam Thielen on this list, which continues to get targets with Bryce Young as the Panthers are improving. You also have Marquez Valdes-Scantling on the list, who's a big play guy in New Orleans. Did have a costly fumble this past week, but that did not help. But the guy I want to talk about, Mr. NWI himself, Nick Westbrook-Akine of the Tennessee Titans. You're telling people to pick him up. This might be my new Taysom Hill. I'm not doing it. I'm not telling people to go.
Tried to stay off. I tried to stay off this train for so long. And then whenever I'm finally like last week, I think it was, I was like, he has 6 receiving touchdowns. He's had 16 catches all year. And then he catches 2 more. There's a point where you're going to look at it and be like, the Titans are going to have to air the ball out because they're going to be behind. And if defenses start, playing softer, you can get garbage time long touchdowns out of Nick Westbrook-Akine. He's proven to be a fairly consistent deep ball threat since DeAndre Hopkins got traded, which you don't see many of. You're going to end up being in a situation where next week you're going to add him. You're going to play him in a desperation. He's going to score 2. Like, I could see that being a very good possibility.
2-0. If he don't catch a touchdown, he doesn't catch.
Fair. But he's done it long enough now that I feel like we have to pay attention.
Yep. Good luck with that. I'm not chasing that at all. I'm not chasing the guy that has 20 catches on the season, albeit 8 of them are touchdowns. No way, not doing it. But he's at least a fun guy to talk about in the fantasy. This is a
guy.
How
does he differ from Marquez Valdes-Scantling to you? Because would you recommend people to add MVS?
No, not really.
Okay. I'm just trying to keep you honest over here.
No, I wouldn't. I don't like those high variants. Like, I'm not telling people to go get Brandon Cooks after he came back and, he got a touchdown, right? Like, I'm not.
But we've seen longer success out of NWI and MVS than we have out of Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I like the guys like Adam Thielen, although he is getting up there in age.
I'm just going to start showing Marcus quotes to help back me up.
It's a touchdown lock. Okay, yeah, sure. Sure. I would bet that he's not, but that's just me.
And with that being said, I also want to mention Adam Thielen is probably your best bet of a widely available wide receiver on the waiver wire. He's getting targets. That offense is starting to look a little bit better. Bryce Young seems like he's starting to make strides. But they're playing the Eagles this week. They have not given up many points at all, the wide receivers. So, like, if you're looking for somebody to just fill a bye and you need to go off the waiver wire, would you rather play Adam Thielen in a bad matchup or take the Hail Mary for MVS or NWI?
I would like to see what else is out there. But to answer your question in that one, I'd probably still roll with Adam Thielen.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because he does a lot of his work out of the slot. And you've done a lot of work on the boundary guys. And I think Adam Thielen, especially in like PPR leagues, he'll still get it might be 5 catches for 40 yards, right? Like, so not a great day, but in the PPR league, that's still 9 points. So,
and with a lot of people out, that I'm expecting scoring to be lower in fantasy that next week. This week, I think it was, very high because we didn't have any buys. And I think scoring in general, there's a lot of high scoring games, but scoring is more than likely going to be lower in fantasy next week.
No, I agree. And the other thing that you could potentially see this week not that I think the Eagles are going to drop this game, but they had the Ravens, big road game. They get the Panthers at home. Then they also have a really big matchup against the Steelers in the Battle of Pennsylvania. Two really good teams. Could be a little, not saying a full-on trap game, but a little bit of a trap game here for Philadelphia. But we talk about that more of that on Thursday.
Yes, sir. So tight ends. I don't know if you have any specific names, but I have a little game you guys can play. So you're going to take a tic-tac-toe board, and you're going to put on all the names of people who might score a touchdown on the waiver wire this week and just throw a dart at it and see who it sticks on and play them, because I literally have no idea. We're basically just playing with touchdown dependent people at this point. I don't have anyone to talk about anymore because Taysom Hill's gone. So this is the best I can do.
I mean, he shouldn't be, but just double check that Johnny Smith still isn't there.
Yeah, I feel like he's kind of been swept up most active leagues at this point. But if he happens to be available, he's your guy.
Yeah, so I think that's a name to watch. But yeah, the tight end market is rough.
Yeah, because I mean, you might be dealing with people like Hunter Henry, Zach Ertz,
Cole
Kmet. Cole Kmet. Like, they're all touchdown dependent for the
most part. Will Disley.
Yeah,
like the list can go on. It is definitely, we are 100% back to the tight end bucket. And you can put the people on that are, on the rosters in that same bucket as well, because it has not been great unless your name is Brock Bowers, who is on his way to making a case for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Probably won't get over a quarterback, but one heck of a season by the rookie that I did not the one bright spot coming out of Las Vegas this year.
Seriously, I didn't get to ask this question earlier, and it looks like we're doing okay on time here. So I just want to hit you with, I know there's been a lot of great rookie performances on the offensive side of the ball. Does Brock Bowers get any consideration?
Yeah, he gets, but he finishes third.
Okay. Behind the two quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels, which I think is number 2 right now, and I think Bo Nix is the winner. Because Bo Nix has been coming on. That's a great point there. I mean, I'm in my head, I was still like, it's Jaden Daniels, but with Bo Nix coming on and Jaden Daniels kind of coming back to earth a little bit, yeah, I could see.
All right, so 2 comments I got to get to because we're still talking tight ends.
Okay.
Marcus said it's a pizza bet for the NWI being a touchdown lock. So me and him have a pizza bet going on if NWI scores a touchdown this week.
I'll be invited to that party. That's fine.
He threw out a tight end, Noah Gray. That's a great one. 2 big weeks back to back. Again, it's still a risky position, but the whole thing is, so I do appreciate, Marcus, you throwing in the 2 cents reminding us of Noah Gray. Had another big game on Friday. He's kind of becoming a key component of that Chiefs offense. So go Chiefs. I just want to see George's reaction. It was not as good as I had hoped for.
You're welcome. I got a poker face going on over here. I'm boiling on the inside. Not really, but just try to play it up a little bit for you.
Cool. Let's talk defense streamers. Who do you got?
I feel like I'm beating the same drum every week, but I feel like the streak of games you can play them has yet again continued. They might be a little bit more owned in your league after these last few weeks, but the Arizona Cardinals, you got Seattle, and then they got New England, and then they got Carolina. If you added them 2 weeks ago, that's going to be 5 straight games you could play them with solid matchups. I know I've been riding them so far, but if they're still available, you can ride them into the fantasy playoffs. It's tough with next week having as many teams. Some of those good defenses have some rough matchups. So I'm kind of struggling to see where else you can grab some defensive streams from. Because there's teams that, like Jacksonville, like I don't really trust their defense, but they're going against the Titans.
I'd say,
what are your thoughts here?
I'd say some streaming options. You can look at the Saints versus the Giants, because the Giants are a joke. If you wanted to roll out there, the Vikings potentially against the Falcons.
They're probably fairly widely owned, though, because they're, I think, defense 2 right now.
Yeah, I just know that, they've had a couple, they had the Bears 2 weeks ago, but so the Cardinals, some people had higher hopes. So they might have been, because not everyone carries two defenses. So that was one, but that is a Kirk Cousins revenge game. So something to keep an eye out there. The Dolphins against the Jets, because the Jets continue to struggle. The Bucks versus the Raiders. Those would be a couple of names to watch, depending on who's available and who's not.
If they're available, San Fran against Chicago, do you think that's a decent one?
I would not. I'd rather play Chicago versus San Fran.
Not a bad idea there. And we'll see what happens with how the fallout goes with the San Fran offense and all of their injuries that just continue to pile on.
Yeah, and don't forget too, like if you're a team that's sitting there in the bye, this coming week, or you're just playing for seeding, you're locked in. Look ahead, to week 15. Get ahead of especially with your defenses, and who has good matchups that week. They might not be the best, but you have teams. The Falcons are playing the Raiders in week 15. You have the Chargers and the Bucks. You have the Cardinals versus the Patriots, like you mentioned. The Ravens, they're probably not available. The Ravens versus the Giants. Like, look ahead to week 15, 16, and 17 if you so choose.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up, so the Ravens are less than 50% owned. Their playoff schedule would be Giants, Steelers, Texans. I mean, I think that the Steelers and Texans we have to kind of keep an eye on, but Steelers-Ravens games are always low scoring. Good for the defenses. They did score 10 in their last matchup. Houston, I kind of want to see where the Texans are at that point before I feel confident saying play them, but that's 2 weeks into the fantasy playoffs. The Cardinals are only 20% owned in NFL.com leagues, which I'm surprised to see it's that low still, considering they've been scoring around 10 to 12 most of these weeks. Playoff schedule, New England, Carolina, LA Rams. Pretty solid.
Yeah. I think that is a good one too. That's always important to remember. But we got about 10 minutes left or so of the show. So do I have a bumper for Monday night? I don't think I do.
You don't, but you can do the song this time.
I don't know the song.
Bum, 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 bum. We're talking Monday Night Football. All right. Browns at Broncos.
I thought you wanted me to do like the in the air.
Oh, I mean, if you really want to do that,
drum thing. But no, you were good with what you did. Let's talk about this game.
Over under 41.5. Cleveland 6.5 point underdogs. I mean, they're a 3-win team. I think we're just higher on Cleveland because we love the Jameis Winston story and everything else that comes along with it. But these Broncos team has been playing great football as of late and are solidifying themselves as a playoff team at this point.
Yeah, I think, that is definitely something worth, mentioning too, is this Broncos team they're on the Cups, right? Are they in the 7th seed as we speak right now?
I believe they have a chance to take the 6th seed from the Ravens if they win tonight.
Yes, so they are in the current 7th seed. A win, although they do have their bye next week, just like the Ravens, but would put them 2 games up in the loss column in the AFC and really, above the Colts. But yeah, this team's legit. Bo Nix is playing great. Sean Payton has this team rolling. Their defense was good last year. It's still good this year. Surtain can lock down some guys. It's really just like, which Jameis Winston do you get? Do you get the, 30 touchdown Jameis Winston, or you get the 30 interception Jameis Winston? And I just love the videos about it. But yeah, I think this is going to be a good game. Have you had a chance to look up the inactives? Are we missing anybody? I know Cedric Tillman was out.
Cedric Tillman is out. I have not looked at any game time decisions. I'll give you a second to take a peek while I can talk a little bit here. I mean, I'm number one interested in what kind of pregame interviews we're going to get from Jameis Winston, because the Monday Night Football team is not going to let that one go after what they got on Thursday 2 weeks ago. Well, I guess it was actually a week ago, wasn't it? 2 weeks ago. I don't know. Whatever. But anyway, the Browns are going to struggle passing the ball regardless on this Broncos team. So if you're somebody who is relying on those Browns wide receivers in this one, I hope you weren't with the fact that we didn't have any buys this week. But I hope you're the best. You're probably going to be touchdown dependent if I had to guess. With that being said, the Browns are going to have to lean on the running game. Nick Chubb, we'll see if he can repeat his one good game he's had since he's been back. Or if it was just kind of like the snow divisional game that kind of gave him that boost. I don't see many ways the Browns can pull this one off. I think the Broncos can kind of hold them down and cruise to a fairly easy, like 21-10-ish type victory.
Interesting you say that because friend of the show, Marcus, is in the chat calling his shot. He's saying 14-10 Denver over the Browns, and he's even calling it's 2 Sutton Tutties and Jerry Jeudy. So he's telling us the future right now, and everybody listening to this on Tuesday, let us know how well Marcus's prediction
Rip
rolls
Marcus
out.
apart when it's an extra touchdown for Denver. And my prediction was closer. Or drop yours in the comments right now so you have that time stamped, and then you can shout at us when you have it right and we have it wrong.
And really, it doesn't matter who wins or loses as long as Nick Chubb gets 11.
Thanks, Cody. I really appreciate it. You just want chaos, if we're being honest here.
Yeah, I mean, now that I'm not going to get my bye, so I'm just playing for seeding. Let the chaos begin.
Let it be known also that Marcus is one of those teams that would benefit from me losing. So,
alrighty, I think that's pretty much it on this Browns-Broncos game. Anything else you want to mention? Any last words before we get out there? I didn't even ask. How was the Eagles-Ravens game in Baltimore?
I'll say that Baltimore Stadium in a night game, pretty cool. They did some really cool things with game presentation to step it up. So I'll say that props to them for that. Got a little bit of snow, some snow flurries in there, which really brought the atmosphere up. But overall, it was a great game. Very close. One of those more traditional AFC North games that you see with like the defense kind of carrying it and then the Eagles able to grind it out. But overall, it was a great atmosphere. A little bit of an Eagles takeover, which was kind of made me feel at home. But it was good.
That I'm glad to hear you mentioned the presentation, because I have not been shy about saying that of the stadiums I've been to, and obviously I have not been to all of them. I've only been to a quarter of them. The Ravens is by far my least favorite. It was the least presentation. Parking was a mess. The stadium wasn't great. The vibes were terrible. And I was saying it was very similar. It was a mid-December game, 4:00, got dark early, 2 playoff games, went down to a 2-point. The Ravens went for a 2-point conversion to win the game. So it wasn't like it was a blowout one way or the other. So I'm glad to hear that the energy was up there. Congrats to you. It is
a little hard to tell if the energy would have been there if it had not been 35 to 40% Eagles fans. I'll say that.
I mean, the fans always play a big role in it too. Where you sit plays a role into how you feel in the moment. But yeah, so I'm glad you had a great time. I'm glad you got out of there safe, got out of there with a victory. I'm sorry for your wife who did not get the win on her birthday, which that just reminded me. I forgot to text her happy birthday. So please tell her that I said happy birthday. You can even clip this and send it to her, because I thought about it and then I completely forgot. What a bad friend that I am. Man, now I feel even worse, but that's my cue to get off here before I talk myself into even more of a hole. But George, it's always great talking football with you. It's always great recapping. We have 4 weeks 18 of the regular season. I had to use my fingers for that one. A lot to talk about. We're going to be back on Thursday, getting you ready for week 14. All the key matchups, helping you get through this last week of buys and helping you get into your fantasy football playoffs. If you have any questions or need any fantasy advice, hit us up at the Couch Jams Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, TikTok, all those good places. Drop comments. I'm Cody Roadcap. That's George Kurth, and we'll talk to you on Thursday.